Hi guys, and welcome to yet another SystemFlow tutorial in which I'd like to showcase SystemFlow for Figma. So what we're going to create is this simple landing page for UI kit based on Ant design for Adobe XD, and that's pretty common layout. That's pretty simple one, and we'll try to build it with SystemFlow for Figma. And then we're going to export it and make a website in Webflow. So at least I'm going to show you some basic structures and concepts around SystemFlow for Figma. So let's go ahead and start designing in our project. So this is SystemFlow with the license, and what I want to do is simply duplicate this project so that I have the copy of SystemFlow for Figma untouched. I'm going to open this new copy of my project, and this is how you start every new project. And now you can delete this things, the navigation and readme and everything from here, meaning that you can design within this welcome page. Let's rename it to home or create another page. It's really up to you. Now let's press F or A. That's the same. And let's select desktop for MacBook Pro. Now we have this first frame. And in this frame, I'd like to set up layout grid. So let me use this predefined 12 column layout grid. And also I'm going to add an auto layout. So for auto layout setting at the beginning, let's switch to vertical direction. And for padding and also the spacing between items, I'm going to set this to 0. So we have 0, 0 here, and now we can start designing. Let's double click on this name as well and set the name to UI kit landing page. And now you can start adding elements from SystemFlow UI kit, and you can do it in 3 different ways. So first you can scroll through pages. For example, select navigation pages. From templates, you have navbar here, and select the navbar you want to use. Let's click on this, the name of the navbar, and then Command C to copy it. Let's go back to our home page. And now if you just paste it with this canvas selected, so you have to make sure that you click on the frame and then you press Command V to paste it, and there you have the first element. And the instance of the navbar component is here, so we can start designing. Now the second element, I'm going to show you different ways. So you can go to assets, and from here you can type in whatever you want to insert. And in this particular case, that would be hero. I'm going to use the left variant of hero, the first one with the image. So there are different hero elements that I can use, but for now, I'm just going to use this one. Let's click and drag and drop it onto our canvas, our frame. If this, for some reason, is in the wrong order, you can reorder it easily by just dragging and dropping. And thanks to auto layout, it will all stay in place and within the markings that we've set. So this is pretty cool. And also you can change the view to small elements so that you can see names. If you recall names more than actually miniatures, you can do it like this. I prefer names, I guess, because I memorized most of the names from the framework. So you can drag and drop them from here. But also what you can do is another way in which you can replace elements. So for example, if you have this another component on canvas, what you can do is you can go directly here, and from this drop-down menu, you can swap instances. So for example, if you want to use, let's say, feature grid, I'm going to just start typing the name of this feature grid. That's feature grid vertical 3 times 2, and I'm going to click on this so that it automatically changed. So 3 different ways here to swap components or search for them. To me, I guess I prefer the assets way, and depending on what you like, you might switch to this view or with the list and names, or view with miniatures. Probably at the beginning you're going to use this view much often, and now you can search for some other component, for example this feature 3, and let's select the left version and put it here. Now I'd like to copy and paste it 3 times, so it's as easy as copy and then paste that 3 times, and here we have it. If I want to change it so that this image is to the left hand side, it's as easy as swapping this instance, exactly this one, and now it's swapped. While you're collecting the elements for the layout, so components, it's always better to zoom out a little bit so that you can see entire layout, how it, how all the components look. And now you can search for another one. Let's search for 3 columns vertical. And again, I kind of prefer the names, so it's a bit easier to select what I want to use. In this case, that would be feature grid with 3 columns vertical basic. Let's put it here. Next, let's use testimonials. And I need 2 columns. This one. Then pricing. The one I'm going to pick is basic 2. Then let's go to FAQ with 2 columns. That would be this one. Okay, and let's reorder. Now we need footer. That will be footer dark, and I'm gonna go with the 3rd version. If for some reason you want to check out different components, how it looks, you can always go to layers and the appropriate page, or you can go to SystemFlow docs. From our page, you can select docs, and here you have all the different components and sections and feature grids, and you can easily copy the name of this particular element from here. If you go back to Figma and you paste the same name in the search, you're gonna have this as a first result. You can easily drag and drop it. So for people who are starting working with SystemFlow, it's much more convenient to probably search through the docs and then copy and paste the name. So that's it. We have the structure of website ready. Oh, okay, I noticed that this component is not really the one that I'm looking for. So let me swap this instance. I'm going to search for testimonials. Let me select this one, and now I'm set. All right, that was not so exciting, but at least it was quick. So now I'm going to show you something really exciting. If you select the frame and then you press return, what you can do is now change the resizing option from fixed width. You can go to fill container, and from there I can manipulate the width of the elements. So I can either go here and set the width to be, for example, 1440. As you can see, it looks pretty good. Or I can even, resize it, and you'll see that it's all working with this auto layout feature. It's super cool. So let's stay with 1440. Now it's pretty important so that you select all the elements. So let's click on the name of the frame and then return. Now you have all the elements selected. And what I want you to do is right click on those elements, and you need to detach those instances. You can use option Command B shortcut, because in order to edit those instances, you'd need to have them detached. So if you detach the instances in the layers panel, here we have the structure that's based on auto layout. It means that I can easily tweak and change it. I can, for example, select, let's say, this illustration and set it to be to the left-hand side. I can change the position of the buttons. So let's reposition those buttons. And also, while it's based on auto layout, it will automatically let me, for example, extend the width of the component when I add some text in here. It's really, really awesome. It's a game changer. So right now, if you have this ready to be edited, I suppose that you want to change typography. And if you haven't played with Figma plugins just yet, I'm going to show you something really nice. What you can do is go to Figma search, and now search for Batch Styler. You want to search in community and plugins. Here we have Batch Styler that you can install. Let's install this plugin. And while it's installed, what you can do is go right click to plugins and then select Batch Styler from here. It will let you restyle the text and colors, but we're going to focus on text based on different styles that it found throughout the document. So we have different styles that are mapped to our library here. What I'd like to do now is select all the same styles of the text. So all the regulars, not bolds. So we have 2 different styles for our library. We have regular and bold, and we want to select all the regulars. So now you can command click on the regulars, and links are also regulars. What you can see here in the weight, and this regular as well as link, regular, link, and I think that's it. You can check other styles, but I'm pretty confident that those are all regular fonts. What I'd like to do now is change the family to the one I know how to spell, but I don't know how to pronounce at all. So sorry, I don't know, Segway. Is that Segway? That might be Segway UI. Now that we have it, we're going to leave the weight to regular, and we can also change the size and line height and letter spacing. And this is pretty cool. Let's update those styles. And by the way, watch what happens on our layout while I am updating the styles. it's automatically changing into segue. Now let's go to the list again and select all the bolds. So let's command click on bolds, and here we have bold, and also the headings are bold, which you can see because it hasn't changed into segue. Let's select all the headings, and tagline I think is bold as well. Again, okay, and we have bold and semi-bold. So what we want to do is we're going to default to bold in this case. So let's update the styles, and here we have it. If you're really meticulous, what you can do is select quote as well and change the family. I'm not using this anywhere in my layout, but I can just update the styles so that all the typography SystemFlow wise is now changed. If I go to typography page, you can see that all the headings and all the paragraphs and lists and everything is segue. Okay, now let's go back home and close this for now. We're going to deal with colors now. So if you take a look at color styles, we have plenty of colors, hundreds of them to be exact. But what we want to do is use only a few of them in the project. Obviously, you can tweak all the colors if you have some sophisticated design system that you're working on. But in the case of most of landing pages that we build with SystemFlow, it really boils down to maybe 4 or 5 colors that we need to adjust. Let me show you how you change those colors. So here we have, for example, the main color, which is called primary 60. It has a little star asterisk next to it, as well as secondary 60. Most important colors in SystemFlow because we are using them throughout all the components. If you take a look at the buttons and here as well. So if you edit this color like so, and you paste the color that you want to use, in my case is this one, I'm going to return and take a look at what happens to the buttons now. And here also we have different color, this dark color that I applied, and also for secondary 60 I'm going to change this color from red to pink, and you can obviously tweak all the different colors. We even use those colors in illustrations, so it's super easy to tweak and customize, but I'm not going to use those illustrations in the layout, so there's no need to tweak different colors. I think those two will suffice. Or maybe let's change also this primary 10. We use it quite a lot in the backgrounds of components like here. So let me edit this primary 10 and change it. And that's basically it for colors. Now let's focus on visual assets. Let's select visual assets, and those are all the icons and logos and illustrations that we have. You can easily replace them, but what I suggest doing instead is simply adding those assets. For example, if you have some images, you can import them into Figma, then renaming them so that you have a nice naming structure. For example, I have this image. This is a feature component, and I have the name XD assets / and then the name of this asset. Thanks to this, I will be able to access all of these elements easily grouped as XD assets, and also I have them as components. So I'm going to show you in a second, those will be easily swappable as well. Let me copy and paste them. If you don't have components yet, so for example, if you paste some images from a folder, you want to select those images and you want to go ahead and create components. So click on this little icon. Now that I have those components and proper names, I can go back to my home page and I can replace some images. For example, this logo image, let me select it. And here I have logo color 2. Let's go to its master components definition by clicking on this little icon, go to main component. Here it is, logo color 1. And I want to replace this logo with the one that I have imported from my asset. To be exact, I'm just going to copy this XD assets logo and paste it into system logo color 1. Let's click on this element and paste it. Now let me zoom in. What you want to do is scale it. You can press and hold Shift and Option so that it stays within proportions. I want to delete the old logo, so let's select SystemFlow logo and delete it. Also, what I want to do is for this XD assets logo, I want to position it to the left-hand side of this component. Let's make sure that it's 24 pixel height, and yeah, let's first lock the height and width so that we can resize it. And now let's click on the logo and select this little option to resize to fit this frame. And last thing that you want to do is to select the frame. So let me unclick and then click on the frame, then press return so that you can select everything what's inside the frame. And what I'd like to do in constraints is change it from left to scale and also from top to scale. So I want this element to scale when someone resizes it. That's pretty much it. So we can go back to home and here's our component, but it's holding the old width. So we need to reset it. Let's go to this three dots next to the component name and the instance name and then reset size. Here we have it. And now if we decide to scale it, it will scale within proportions and we can have the size of, let's say, 35 pixels. If you don't need the grid anymore, you can obviously hide it. It's Control G you can use to hide the grid. It's cleaner now, so let's swap another element. Let's select this placeholder illustration, and this is an instance of a symbol. Thanks to the visual assets catalog that we have here, we can select XD assets and the naming convention is here. So we can go to all the assets that we've imported and we can select video small. And if you double click on this instance, you'll select video small. And from the image field, what I want to do is change this property from fill to fit. And now we're all done. Now let's consult it with the layout and Control G, turn it off. There's more space next to the image. So what we can do is select the element. Let me select this text wrapper and you have auto layout features that will allow you to add margins or padding. So here we can add an extra 64 pixel padding and here you have it. Now for all the other images, the process is exactly the same. So you select the image, you can control click on the image and then you want to swap this instance of this particular icon. Let's select the icon and instead of this one, I'm going to select the one that I already have in XD assets. And from here, let's select this grid icon components. Let me command click on it, then select the icon, replace it. And let's swap into XD assets. And here we have this one. This is fairly easy. I'm not going to show you that because it's just clicking and replacing elements that are already here. What's key is that you have those assets and you have the naming convention right. I'm going to exchange and speed up the process of exchanging this image in a second, but it's fairly easy. You just select the element. Now you select it and go to XD assets again and select, in this case, I think it's feature components. Now you can also double click and make sure that the image is set to fit. If you want to change the size of this component slightly, you can do so. Again, if you want to add some margin, also you can do it by selecting this text wrapper. You can go to auto layout options and set the padding here to be 64. So this is just repeating ourselves. However, auto layout is super cool in Figma because it lets you easily, for example, get rid of the elements. If you take a look at this testimonials here, they have stars, they don't have any header or caption. So what we want to do is simply select this empty section and delete it. That's it. And everything snaps in place because it's auto layout. This also means that if you want to, for example, select both layers with Command and Shift and you want to hide them, you can just hide them like so. And this will go to the left-hand side. It's super handy. And in pricing, for example, we don't have this element. Again, we can just hide it or we can delete it. Let's just make sure that we get rid of every thing that's not important here. And yeah, there we go. So I'm going to quickly exchange the images and be back in a second. All right, the images are in place. Now let's check out the components, for example, this button, because in my ready-made layout, those buttons have actually rounded corners. And in order to do it, let's select one of the buttons and let's go to its master definition so that we quickly jump to components. And here we have two main components for buttons. Let's select them like so, and let's go to rounded corners. And I'm going to have 8 pixel radius there. Now, as you can see, all the buttons throughout the framework has rounded corners. It's pretty much awesome. So I can go back to home and this button has rounded corners as well. Now let's change the styling of those buttons. Let's take a look at those ones. We need some icons. We need a ghost button here. So let's select the first one and change it. I'm gonna change it from secondary to outline and icon to the left. And this one, I'm going to change from primary to ghost and text only. Now let's change the colors. Select the entire section. Here I can change the fill color. I need to select this primary 60 color, and let's select the text. It's currently neutral 100. We're going to change it to neutral 10. And as the same we're going to do with this one, neutral 10. And the second one from here is now primary 60. What we need to select is secondary 60. This one's going to be pink as well. And if you want to change this icon, let's select this icon. And instead of this face icon, what I want to search for is download. So let's search for download and select the proper icon. That's it. Okay, now I think it's starting to look pretty much similar to what we have in the design. We also have the second section. Let's maybe focus on this third section right now, because here we have different colors, but also an unordered list. So what we have to do in order to put unordered list in there is let's select this text wrapper. Now, if you press option 2, you'll go to assets, and from here, let's search for unordered list. What I need is the one with the icon. Let's put it in here. Let's select it and change its resizing into fill container. That's it. Okay, let's zoom in a little bit and select this list once again so that we can make changes. I need to detach it from the instance. So let's right click and detach instance. This way I can make changes to the instance. And now let's select the last item, Command D, to duplicate it. That's basically it. Oh, we need to change the color of those icons. So let's change it from our primary 60 to our secondary color. And we also need to change the button. Now, let's change it from primary to outline, and we're going to select this with icon to the left. This icon has to be download as well. So let's select the icon instead of face. Again, I'm going to select download, maybe this one this time. Okay, and let's go to this section. But before we do, I think between those sections, we have some margins, and that's super easy to apply. Let's select this section. Maybe let's go to layers so that I'm sure that this feature left section is selected. And with auto layout, you can select and add some extra margin at the bottom of this one and this section as well. Sorry, not to the top, but to the bottom. And now we need to change some colors. I think I messed up with the images as well. So let me first change images so that here we have this feature icons, and here would be feature technologies. And we need to select this feature left section. Let me see all the colors that are in here. And we need to change this neutral 20, which is the background, to 100, which is black. Now, again, let's select this text, neutral 100, we need to change to neutral 10, and primary 60 into secondary. That would be, okay, this section would be neutral 10 as well. And for the button, let's see, this is about, we don't have button here, but we have the list. So we can get rid of the button and copy the list from here. If you select list and now you select this text wrapper, you can copy and paste. And now from neutral 90, we're going to go to neutral 10, and there we have it. For the next section, we have neutral 20. Let's change it to our primary 60 color this time. And this neutral 100, that should be this one. That one we're going to change to neutral 10 as well. And also we have this primary 60 that needs to be changed to secondary 60. As for the button, okay, there's no button, but there's 2 lines of text. Let me get rid of the button. And what I'd like to do is select this text and Command D, duplicate it. Let's detach this instance, and now we can select different type settings. Let's go inside, and from here we're going to use not regular but bold. And if you want to copy and paste the text, let me show you how it works. Well, let's select this text and copy and paste it over. I'm going to paste it without styling, and if I want to restyle it, let me select some portion of this text. Now let's change it to link, and I also want to change the color from neutral to our secondary 60 color, and that's it. Okay, let me switch because those are pretty much the same, and this is the list, so we're just going to have to copy and paste the list. But this component is something that I can show you. So first we need to change the buttons. But before we do, we have a lot of nested components inside this wrapper. So what I suggest you doing is press return on the wrapper. Now the cards are selected. Now you can detach instances. Okay. Now you press return again, and here I've selected all the nested components inside. I can right click and then also detach instances. Now I'd be able to edit those instances separately, and the first thing I need to change are the buttons. Let me select the button here, and I need to change it from this normal primary button into the one that I can search for. What we need to search for is drop down button trigger fluid, I guess. Okay, of course you can search for it in the docs as well, but I think that's the one. Okay, so here you have it with the drop down. And by the way, if you want to edit those buttons, especially if you want to edit their colors, it's as easy as going to the definition of the master component to quickly get there. For example, if you'd like to use the secondary buttons and now they have a light color that we've changed, you can press and hold command or control on PC to select all the buttons with this specific color. And if you press and hold shift, you're gonna select all of them like that. Now you can change this primary 10 into primary 60, and all the buttons within SystemFlow will change accordingly. So this is pretty cool as well. Let me go back to the design. I'm going to show you one more thing that you might find very useful. So what if you want to add another element into this container? Let's go to assets and let's search for something that's called grid, 3 columns vertical. Let me put it in there. And now I want to use this component to create something that you can see right there. So in order to do it, what I'd like to do first is always detach the instance. Now I can grab this grid, get rid of this element. For the elements here, let me go to layers again. Those are components. I need to detach them again. So right click and detach instance. Now let's zoom in. If you press and hold command and select all these elements, you might be able to change the icons. So let's select, for example, material icons and this lock icon here. Let's set the size to 24 by 24 like this. If you want to reposition those elements, let's press return on the grid, and now let's go to its options and set it to center so that I can center align the icons. By the way, those headings are not in my design, so let's delete the headings. And also let's select the text. What you can do is go to grid again, return, and then return once again, and now you can set the text alignment to center. Now you have this grid component that you want to use and put into this element. So let me Command C and copy it and paste it into our wrapper. If I paste it into the wrapper, it's not showing properly, but all you have to do is, while having this grid selected, go to its settings and change into hug contents. If you do so, you'll be able to fit it into the layout grid that we had. Now, all you need to do is just change the icons, and that's it. And also another important setting if you're adding new components to the sections is not only to change this hug contents, but also if you want this to resize with the section, just change this fixed width into fill container. And this way, if you select the entire section, let me get rid of this grid. You can easily change the size of this element. Now it's responsive and it's working pretty great. So I think that's it. I've shown you all the things that you really need to tweak and use SystemFlow to create pages like this, to change the styling and restyle the components. Hope you liked it. And in another part of this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to transfer this from Figma to Webflow. Thanks a lot and see you in this upcoming video.